My name is Antoinette Cruz, and I come from Sumakwam Nation of Statlimic tribes in BC, Canada.
And what brought you out here today?
I came out here to accept a position as the BC Representative for the National Indigenous Medical Cannabis Association.
And what's your interest in the plant or in the association? How do you see that?
I've actually been involved with this plant my whole life. I've been around it. I've witnessed the underground economy and the contribution that cannabis makes to the economy, the colonial economy. And throughout my life, I've fought cancer twice, ovarian cancer once, and a mass on my liver the second time. And both times I used cannabis oil to help in conjunction with other traditional methods like chaga mushroom tea, like change of diet back to traditional foods, and such things like that, yoga, different kinds of things in conjunction with cannabis that really activated my healing process. And in the process of that, I was also starting to find my identity, and that was one of the biggest gifts that cannabis gave back to me.
How do you see the connection between cannabis and Indigenous identity?
I believe that it helps people process, that it has huge healing benefits in relation to PTSD, in relation to identity loss, in relation to detachment disorders, which are huge in Indigenous communities. So these are all things that can be helped just by helping process the information. And many people suffer from anxiety and other disorders that don't allow them to make the connections in the brain. For instance, many people don't know that when you're traumatized at a young age, that your left hemisphere of your brain gets paralyzed, so that you don't connect your feelings like a normal brain would that has not been traumatized. And almost every person, I'd say 98-99% of the Indigenous population has been traumatized at some point in their life. And this is a huge benefit to help bring them back from that trauma and help them heal.
Do you see there being economic benefits to the plant as well, or could you speak about how that might affect your community or other Indigenous communities?
Oh, absolutely. I've actually been doing presentations on sustainable economic development regarding hemp and other sustainable resources for the past 5 years. The last 2 years specifically with different First Nations in BC that have asked me to do paid presentations to educate their people on the benefits of it, and one of them being hempcrete, which would be used for building homes, for building industrial buildings that we can use for processing other materials even, and starting other schools and grocery stores and other natural environments for our people to bring us economic independence ultimately. Because from what I know about history is that the government has been lending money to these reservations and to these communities and these nations for years in hopes that they would invest that money into something and create an economy of their own, and that just hasn't happened. And I feel like people didn't know that that's what was expected of them, and we would like to go out and we would like to educate people on that and say these are the benefits, and you do have a lot of control over what happens in your community, and you are valuable. And what we can do through that is not only return the identity to the people, more people will be wanting to engage in coming back home. They'll see there's more opportunities. They'll see that there's more opportunities for us in the Indigenous communities, and they'll look forward to going home instead of dreading it and wondering where they would work. This will provide employment for people, it'll provide education, it'll provide nutritional intervention. It'll be a nutritional intervention. People are dying of diabetes, of lupus, of crazy illnesses that can be cured by cannabis. Many of these things. Cannabis is the one thing that can cure the most illnesses with the least side effects. and that's one of the best.
And when you're saying nutritional, you're saying like eat the plant?
I'm saying that I offer hemp seeds, organic hemp seeds, and I eat them on a daily basis, and I feed them to my whole family. And this is a seed that will clean out your intestines and years of blockage, years of carbohydrates and sugars that you've been consuming that are left in your body. Many people eat before they sleep. That is just growing your intestines, which in turn is growing your body, and people don't realize. And they're like a huge piece of the population is also fighting weight control. And how about low self-esteem? These are two big things as well. Teenagers are cutting themselves in Indigenous communities because they think they're fat. But they're forced by poverty to shop at certain stores to eat what their parents bring home, whether it's macaroni and cheese or noodles, which are high carcinogenic and cancer-causing foods with huge preservatives in them. And that's what we're feeding our kids. And that's what you're feeding your future, ultimately.
Are there examples of Indigenous nations in BC that have embraced the cannabis plant, or that are advancing with either medical cannabis or these options, or is this still in the planning stage?
It is in the planning stage in some nations. There are a couple nations. One close to where I am in Vancouver. There's one on the island right now. One of the chiefs that's going against the pipelines, Tsleil-Waututh, I think it is, Tsleil-Waututh Nation. Chief Reuben George and a couple other chiefs in BC have gotten together to look at cannabis and hemp as sustainable options. They also have port access, which is really big for us as Indigenous nations and having open free trades markets. So that's one nation that I know of that's working on it. Another one would be, I can't remember if it's Princeton or Penticton, but one of those two had gotten a legal license from the government, Health Canada, to grow marijuana as well. I think it's 3 tons a year or something.
Do you feel that there's a stigma against cannabis within Native communities, or do?
Oh, absolutely. But I feel like that stigma it's dying really fast. And what's going on with that is all the elders that have been left behind and are not being listened to. Is many people that are my age and are involved in cannabis and hemp industries are going out, and we make our own infused massage oils and lotions, and we take those out and we show them that, like grandma or great grandma or great auntie or uncle, we do not want to disrespect our traditions at all. We don't want to be disrespectful to the culture. Please, if you'll allow me, I'll massage your ankles or your wrists with this lotion, and I'll show you these are the benefits. And we're not promoting smoking at all. We do promote using topicals, edibles, and different other forms so that it's more acceptable in the home. And we also like to train people on safety, like keeping it in a locked safe in your locked bedroom as a parent and adult, and those kind of measures, so that we're making sure that our babies, which are the most important to us and the most valuable creatures on the planet, are going to make it, and that they're not in danger, and that the government's not going to be worried about you leaving your medicine around. That's a hugely important thing. And you're asking about other benefits economically. I was involved in a project a couple of years ago on a hemp airplane. So we could do many, many other things.
Like building the airplane out
I
of?
have a friend that's testing fuel right now. I have another friend in Asia that's testing hemp fibers to absorb oil. So this would look like something for emergency preparedness. So when the oil is leaking and there's toxic chemicals that are being spilled, that we would have a solution for that, and hopefully we would be able to come up with something within our association and our organizations to be able to be prepared for those disasters, natural disasters they call them, but they're not natural.
What kind of issues are you seeking to bring forward at the national association level?
One of the things that I find really important would be bringing up First Nations interim health benefits and status coverage, and how we could get that coverage, kind of look for a connection to have our medication, our medical marijuana and such products covered by our own dispensaries, by our status cards. They want to provide us medicine, and this is a good way for us to challenge the government and say, would you only like to prescribe us your generic prescription pills that have opiates in them, that have benzodiazepines in them, that have toxic effects to our health and are causing us really a lot of damage more than they're causing any good? Or are you at this point, after 150 years of open genocide, willing to work with us and sit down at a table and say, yeah, we're willing to pay for this medication because we have caused you so much damage over 150 years, and it's about time we reconcile and take ownership of what we've done and allow you the freedom to practice your own medicine, the freedom to practice your own traditions, the freedom to save your people and ours. Because this is ultimately going to save everybody. It's not just about being Native. This isn't an Indigenous problem. This is a humanity problem. You know, this is about humanity and not just our nations or about Canada. I just got back from Colombia, and I went to a farm where they had a 2-year license to grow CBD cannabis, and they've got a school on that property, and they're teaching the kids about agriculture, and the first thing that they get to learn about is culture and tradition, and after that it is math and English and things in case they want to go out to the city and they would like to live in the colonial world, then they would have that opportunity as well.